Further up Main Street, across from the clock tower, is Hudson Fine Art and Framing, where we talk with Kathleen Harrington and Denny Stoiber, who will talk to us about being members of the Whiskey Painters of America. Hello, I'm Alan Marzullo, and we're here at Hudson Fine Art and Framing, right on Main Street across from the clock tower here in Hudson. And we're having the gallery hop here, and this time we're featuring, or the Fine Art and Framing is featuring Whiskey Painters of America, WPA, which is a fun group, and we have Denny Stoiber and Kathleen Harrington here today with us, and they're going to tell us what it's all about. And the Santa in the window, who has a little bottle of whiskey right next to him, and he's painting with has got his wonderful watercolor on the easel, he's participating as well. So it's kind of a fun little introduction to what Whiskey Painters of America is all about, and that's what we're going to learn about today.
Well, yeah.
So welcome both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're about painting, and we're about fun, and we're about whiskey.
Why not, right?
Why not?
Yeah.
So Denny, you said that this group had actually started here in this area in Akron. Why don't you tell us how that?
Yeah, correct. About the mid-50s, a local artist, an Akron artist, and also a man who owned his own business in plastic molding. He was a watercolor painter. Really enjoyed doing that, but he had to make a lot of sales trips to New York and various other cities, and missed not being able to paint. So what he decided to do was cut some watercolor paper into about postcard size, something that would fit into his jacket pocket. He made himself a little paint palette out of an aspirin tin. In fact, we have the actual original tin that he made up. He made some little dividers so he could have 5 or 6 different colors there. He took some paintbrushes and cut them down so they would fit there. Everything would fit into his pocket. And then when his sales meetings were finished for the day, he would find a local pub and go there, order some whiskey, and use that as his solvent and paint. Well, he got a lot of good response from people. Hey, what are you doing here? And hey, boy, that's really nice.
You want to drink
this
that?
And that. He came back to Akron, and along with some of his other painting buddies, he's telling them about this. They said, well, that seems like a good idea. Why don't we all get together and do this? Well, one of the very well-known, renowned painters named John Pike was in New York City. At one point, he made a trip to the Akron area for an event, and they said, hey, why don't we bring him along? They went to the Tangier restaurant in Akron, all sat around and said, why don't we make this a group?
and this could be our meeting.
Yeah. So they did. In fact, we have a napkin that they all signed. This was in 1962. 11 members, and they all signed and said, we are now the Whiskey Painters of America.
So that's the charter napkin.
That's our charter.
Yeah, that's their charter document.
Yes.
And they then put together some bylaws and rules and this and that, all with the idea, as Kathy said, of it being fun.
It's fun.
It's a real fun get together.
It's fun and it's social, and we will get together as a group, maybe 3 times a year, in a park or in someone's home, or at Christmas we're going to Hudson's restaurant. We'll sit there and paint and have a little tea.
So when people walk by,
they're fascinated.
And they do. They
And
stop.
they do.
What's
What
going
are you
on?
Oh, that's
doing?
fun.
It's so much fun.
And then at the end of the event,
At the end of the event, we award ourselves a little giggy to put on our
what's
It's a
the
little,
kid?
well, it's like the football players wear on their helmet.
Yeah, little
It's a
helmet
little
sticker.
round sticker.
Oh,
and it has
yeah.
the place you were and the date and the fact that we were all there painting together
Oh,
to
that's great.
commemorate it.
And then we take whatever painting that we made that event, put it on the table, and we all switch. So you get to take one of your colleagues' paintings home with you. So it is fantastic. In fact,
Kinda like
I brought
a
along
painting
some of the
exchange.
paintings that I got in exchanges.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
You can see from looking at it sort of the range of things. There are some people, if we need to tip these up, I can a little bit so you can see. In this case, it is a portrait of a waiter serving wine glasses. This is a little pen and paint. Almost a journaling type of a piece that was done by one of our members who just recently passed away. You know, this is a sort of a real impressionistic landscape. Another's kind of a romantic view of a couple of people meeting down a secluded alley. And another
secluded
one,
alley. Oh.
another one is of a canal boat.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it reminiscent of canals here in Ohio? Is that what they're?
Yeah, in fact, this one was on the Ohio and Erie Canal.
And this is Denny's painting. He did
Oh,
this
wow.
one. I'll give you praise here.
don't
Yeah.
need
The one thing they all have in common is none of them are larger than 4 by 5 inches.
Okay, so
That's
the
the
little pocket.
maximum size that a whiskey
postcard
painting
size.
can be.
Yep.
Right. And they cannot be framed up larger than 8 by 10.
Yeah, that 20 square inches was one of the bylaws that the original founders said can't be any bigger than that because we want to remain true to the way this whole group began.
Now you were saying, Kathleen, there's something special about that.
Well, if you want to become a whiskey painter, you have to have a current member sponsor you. And then you go through the application procedure and you submit samples of your artwork. And when you're accepted, this is your membership gift. It's a
just take
tiny little paint box, and the top of it is embossed with our logo, Whiskey Painters, and that's yours to keep.
beautiful.
Isn't that
Yeah.
special? I don't use it because it's so special. I just keep it on the shelf.
Yeah, it's got the little tiny brush in there as well, but you know,
Yeah.
you find it, even though we're a very small painting, that little brush, you have to work pretty hard
Yeah.
to use it and do a painting. So
Right.
we all bring around
You
our
have your
standard brushes, but Kathy's brought some of her equipment along too.
I brought, this palette was given to me by Tom Jones's family. Tom was a member. He's actually the person who did this
Did that
beautiful
painting,
tree.
yeah.
And Tom passed away earlier the month. And when we were here setting up, his family came in and they had all of his art supplies. And they said, we want them to go to somebody who paints. So that I have this, and this was his. I want you to see how old this must be.
That
It's
is.
tin.
You turn that around.
Yeah, can you? And it's what he used to paint. And I'm just thrilled to have it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, are these all the
He
colors
did-
here? Did
Yeah, he set that up. So he would know exactly what was in each
Yeah.
going around the dial here. Isn't that
great.
special?
finest and brilliant colors?
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Original Grumbacher.
Now you were saying.
Now, I wanted to say, the one thing about being a whiskey painting, it has to have this little certificate on the back. And this
What does
sticker
that say?
verifies it's a certificate of authenticity.
Right.
Has
Yeah.
the logo for the Whiskey Painters of
Right.
America, an original, and then it's verified by.
Well, we sign it, we date it, we name the painting, we put the price, and then it has some information
genuine
about
whiskey
a
painting.
whiskey
Yeah.
painting.
Yeah, there are from time to time we become aware of people who say they're teaching whiskey painting and people think that they're a
really?
whiskey painter if they've done it. So in order to make sure that there is an authentic whiskey painter of America, that we have that label. And in fact, when we have shows like this one, Kathy Johnson set this up for her show. She doesn't advertise, hey, we're having a whiskey painter show, who wants to participate? Whiskey Painters of America actually sends her the mailing labels for all of our members. So all she has to do is stick them on the prospectus and she sends them out. And that way we know only official members have gotten an invitation to be a part of this.
Who was your sponsor, Denny?
My sponsor was Ron Bean,
Ron
who
Bean.
is the current president of Whiskey Painters of America. Who was yours?
Hillary Sheeter.
Hillary Sheeter
That's
was a
nice. That's
Yeah.
really
famous
so special.
Hudson painter
Is
who
this
just
his?
passed away.
Yeah,
No,
passed
that's
away last
that's
spring.
Ann Kayes.
Oh,
I
that's
didn't
Ann
bring it. I
Kayes.
don't have a Hillary, but
I have one in my collection. I
Oh,
should
do
have
you?
brought it. Yeah.
Everybody should have a Hillary.
Everybody
Right?
should have a
yeah, he
Hillary.
just passed
Yeah.
away last year as well,
Yeah.
and
Such a nice man.
oh,
Some beautiful
tremendous,
work.
Yeah.
tremendous guy.
And
Yeah,
the
yeah.
one thing I was wondering about is you said that you have to be introduced or asked to
Sponsored.
join,
Yeah.
sponsored
Yeah.
by someone, and it originated here in the Akron Hudson area. How far you said it reaches America, but how do you? What if you don't live in this area?
Well,
and
that's
don't know someone?
that's problematic. We do have members in, I think right now, 35 states and Canada. However, there are some of those painters who people become aware of, or they just hear of whiskey painter and they say, "Boy, I'd like to do that." So at that point, they are able to contact our president, Ron Bean, and he sort of has the ability. Kathy had mentioned that each of us can only sponsor 2 practicing members, and the president, however, has the leeway to be able to sponsor others from who aren't close by somebody who would be able to sponsor them.
So your furthest member is the Canadian one, or is it even further?
Oh no, we have
California.
California. We have
California,
California
yeah,
and
South
Arizona
Carolina,
members,
yeah,
and
yeah.
And then do you have an annual event where they would come, try to come, or encourage?
no, we really don't have that. But as Kathy mentioned, here locally, and we have encouraged other people who are, say, in California, and there are within 50 miles of each other, there might be 5 or 6 whiskey painters. We encourage them to do the same thing. When I send out the invitations to our what we call paint outs, I send it to everybody and say, we realize that some of you aren't going to be able to make it to Cuyahoga Falls or Hudson or Akron for this event. Maybe you want to try doing this yourself because it's a lot of fun. But by and large, unless somebody is like traveling at the time we're doing it, and hey, we're going to happen to be in the area, we'll stop by and be part of this. We get here mostly just our local members, and we might have anywhere between 12 and 20 people that will show up. And
So when it's a paint out, is it normally indoors, or sometimes it's
in the summertime we do picnics and
Oh, nice.
At the park, we
Yeah.
barbecue. And
we did it at
play
Hudson
games
Springs
and-
Park 2 years
We did
ago.
Hudson
We've done it
Springs.
down at Silver Lake Park a couple of times.
Down by the river. It was lovely.
Yeah. So those are fun. If this time of year, we certainly do them inside, and as Kathy
Yeah.
said, we're doing Hudson Restaurant, and
we've done
we find that a lot of restaurants really like the idea. We look for a time that is not their slammed busy
Right.
time, because we're taking up some space for a few hours. But when we get there are a lot of people that are drawn to it, and I think the restaurateurs appreciate that.
I would, I know.
Yeah.
What do you feel or find a difference from when you're using whiskey, or I mean, maybe you change it up a little bit? I don't
We
know
were
if you-
just talking
Yeah,
about that.
and
Kathy
what-
has some
regular
ideas.
watercolor.
In fact, she has ideas about what kind of whiskey to use.
Okay.
I use the kind I don't drink mostly. I was using tequila, and I thought it seemed to have an oily quality, so I stopped using that.
Oh, okay.
I think the paint reacts to it a little differently. If you have wet paint on paper and you drop the alcohol into it, it will bloom. It'll create a
very
chemical.
quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so sometimes that's something you want. You work it into your painting, it's like, you know. But sometimes I didn't need that in the sky.
So you might have a selection of different
Yeah.
alcoholic whiskey
I usually just have
combinations
one
or
open
something.
at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, just one.
I agree that I think it is different than painting with water. The paint tends to move a little bit differently.
does.
The other thing is it dries much more quickly.
Oh,
So
very quickly.
that a big part of watercolor is understanding how wet your paper is and how wet your brush is, because that has different effects on how the paint works. And so you really have to adjust the way you paint using whiskey, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. It does.
So people tend to get better the longer they're a whiskey painter. So Kathy mentioned the fact that when you're accepted, you submit 2 paintings. One of them goes to the permanent collection of the Whiskey Painters of America. The other goes to your sponsor. But by and large, the ones we have in the permanent collection aren't the best work of any of those
No.
painters. I don't
it's their
believe.
first
Because
try.
you get the more you work with it, the more you understand
and
how it's
working on
different.
that very small scale
Yeah.
can be a little tricky.
Now, do you feel that you improved as a watercolorist in general?
I would hope.
Because I mean, do you sometimes it's like a 50-50 chance you might be using just water today, or you feel like doing the whiskey, or and so you've improved your styling.
Certainly, if you want to do a larger piece, you're just doing basic watercolors with
'cause
water.
Yeah.
This is more like a late night relaxing kind of event.
or an event.
Instead of knitting,
Or
or something,
an
something
event.
you're going to be
Yes.
doing.
When there's a whiskey show coming up, then you get busy
get
and you do
busy
a bunch
right
of
away.
that.
Oh,
Or if we're having a paint out, then you're gonna
Right.
do a painting
Or if you're
there.
traveling.
Yeah,
It's a good
or
thing
if you're
when
traveling. If you're Don Ferrio or Joe Ferrio and you're
Which-
traveling and
yeah.
want to
Slip it in your pocket, right?
go to the bar
Yeah.
after your business meeting, then
Yeah.
that's
I
what
bet
you
he
do.
met a lot of interesting people like that.
Yeah.
Well, you had John Pike, right?
Yeah, exactly. One of the interesting things about doing the paint outs especially is when I go, I'll order like a double shot of bourbon or something. If you're really, really disciplined and careful about how you do this, you have a glass of water there too. So if you're painting one color, you want to change colors, you wash out your glass in the water, then dip it in the alcohol, take up your thing. But you have to be really disciplined about doing that because there are some elements, there are some toxins that are in whiskey pigments. So if you're really good, then at the end you finish your painting, then you drink the liquor. But you got to be careful. You got to be careful because you
Don't
could-
use any
could make
cadmium
you-
colors.
if you're using cad red, that's trouble.
Not so much.
Yeah.
Sally Heston said never use white wine because the sugar content is so high that she felt that she had a painting that attracted ants.
Ooh.
Really?
Yeah, maybe
Wow.
it was
So
a
she
very
might have
sweet
been
white
displaying
wine.
it, and all of a sudden the
Yeah,
ants
I've
are
she
coming
never
out.
told
heard of
me
that,
that, yeah.
but that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is really very interesting, and I really appreciate you allowing us to,
Oh, thank
to
you for coming
talk to you
here.
today. And
Yeah, this was
this
fun.
is when you have your next showing after this one. We'll be happy to.
We will
to
let
take
you
a look.
know.
Yeah, we have
Sure.
we have a showing. It'll probably be in April or May down at the Cuyahoga Valley Arts Center in Cuyahoga
Oh,
Falls.
okay.
And then I think Kathy's inviting us back here next December.
Oh, wonderful.
Because I think she sees this as a real good time of the year, and since our pieces tend to be less expensive to buy